It's the kind of story that gets told over beers in dimly lit corners of Kansas dive bars. The ones with creaky stools and jukeboxes stuck on the same three songs. But this one doesn't end with a laugh. It ends with a locked door, a cold beer, and a man who vanished into thin air. They say it happened just after closing time on a Wednesday. Nothing special about the day. The wind was quiet. The tracks behind the bar hadn't seen a train in over a week. But at 1:17 a.m., something went wrong. His name was Mike, 49 years old, local guy, worked at the same bar for 13 years without missing a shift. He wasn't the kind to stir trouble. The regulars liked him because he listened more than he talked and always remembered your drink, even if you didn't remember his last name. That night, everything seemed normal. Two customers lingered past midnight, older men, truckers maybe, from out of town. They drank slow, talked low, and left two half-finished beers on the counter. Mike was seen wiping the bar down, humming to himself. The exterior camera caught them leaving, and that was the last footage ever recovered. The next morning, the owner came to open up. Mike's car was still parked out back. The lights inside were on. The chairs were stacked, but the door was locked from the inside. And Mike? Gone. Not a trace. Not even his coat. The police came, took statements, lifted fingerprints. Nothing unusual, except the fact that there was no exit he could have taken without unlocking that door. No other way out, no broken windows, no signs of struggle, just silence, and the slow drip of condensation from two warm beers left unfinished. No money was missing, no signs of robbery, just absence. And in a town this small, people don't just disappear, especially not Mike. That's when the story started, about what those men might have asked him, about what was buried beneath the floorboards back when the bar used to be a freight stop, and about the train that no longer runs. But some still claim to hear on foggy nights. The bar was called the Switchyard, though nobody alive remembered why. Some said it used to be the conductor's lounge back in the 1940s, when Kansas freight still pulsed through the middle of town. Others claimed it was built over something older, a holding spot for cargo that was better left off the books. But by the time the walls were lined with dusty train memorabilia, old lanterns, a rusted bell, a signal switch that hadn't worked since the Carter administration. Locals treated it like a second home. You'd see the same 10 faces in the same 10 chairs every Thursday night. Nobody locked their cars, everybody knew everybody. And if Mike poured your drink, he'd ask about your mom before he asked for your tab. The place had charm, but there was always something else. A weight in the air, especially near the back hallway where the light flickered no matter how many times the bulb was changed. You could hear the hum of the tracks outside, even though no train had passed in years. People said it was just memory, steel echoing through soil, but sometimes it felt louder, closer. A few of the older folks, ones who'd grown up here, whispered that the land under the bar was cursed, not in a cartoon way, in a way that made them lower their voices when they said it. Some remembered a time before the bar was built, when the ground was just hard-packed dirt and rail, and how once something was found buried behind the platform. Bones, human, but the official word was animal remains. They always are. Mike never talked about that stuff, said it gave him the creeps. A girl in 1978, a cook in 1986, a regular in 2002. Always someone alone, always just after midnight, always within 10 feet of that bar. No one made connections back then. Not seriously, not until Mike. After he vanished, people started remembering things. That cold draft that blew from under the supply closet. The smell of burning metal in the hallway some nights. The door to the office that locked itself even when propped open. The security footage didn't help. The tapes cut at 1:19 a.m., clean break. No glitch, no fade. Just gone. When the feed resumed, the beers were still on the counter, still sweating in the lamplight. But Mike? Like he'd been lifted out of frame. And then there was the dog, a stray mutt that wandered behind the building the next morning, sat staring at the back wall for over an hour. Didn't bark, didn't move, just stared. When the owner tried to shoo it off, it growled. Not at him, but at the wall. That's when folks started talking about the basement. The bar didn't have a basement. Not on the blueprints, not on the county records, but the tile in the storage room was newer than the rest. And once, someone swore they heard knocking beneath the floor. Mike's wife said he'd mentioned it once. A weird sound under the kegs, like a train passing underneath the building. She thought he was joking. He wasn't, because that Wednesday night, something was different. The lights in the parking lot stayed on longer than usual. The fridge reset twice, and the radio played a song no one remembered adding to the playlist. A hymn, one that hadn't aired on Kansas radio since 1956. The next few days after Mike's disappearance were a blur. Cops came and went, questions were asked, statements taken, but none of it mattered, because there was nothing to find. No blood, no prints, no sign of forced entry. His coat still hung by the back door. His wallet sat under the bar. His keys were in the ignition, untouched. The only thing missing was him. Locals started keeping their distance from the switchyard. Regulars who'd once drank there 3 nights a week now crossed the street without looking in. Something had shifted, like the air had thickened and gotten harder to breathe. The bar reopened 5 days later. The owner said it was what Mike would have wanted. No one believed that. But we went anyway. Curiosity is a powerful thing, and some of us, myself included, needed to see it with our own eyes. Maybe it would make sense if we stood where he stood, heard what he heard. It didn't. If anything, it felt worse. That night, I sat on the same stool where the 2 truckers had left their beers. The stains were still visible in the wood grain, rings of moisture like bruises on flesh. I looked toward the back of the bar. The hallway felt longer than I remembered, like it stretched into something deeper. The jukebox flickered, played a static lace track that didn't match the listed number. A man's voice humming, low and tired. I asked the bartender, a new kid, barely 20, if he knew the song. He shook his head. I didn't touch it, he said. It just started. I stood up and walked toward the hallway. Every step felt heavier, not like fear, like gravity itself was stronger there. The back office door was closed. I pushed it, locked. But I knew that door. It didn't lock from the outside. There was a faint scent in the air, like oil and iron. The mirror behind the bar reflected something that wasn't there. A figure standing behind the counter. Not the bartender. Not anyone I recognized. It was just a blur, like a smear on glass. Tall, still, watching. When I turned back, nothing. I didn't sleep that night. I kept hearing things. A low whistle, like wind through broken teeth. A soft clatter, like bottles shifting on their own. And always was that feeling that I wasn't alone. The next morning I went back. Don't ask me why. Maybe I needed proof that I hadn't lost my mind. The bar was empty, except for one thing. The 2 beers, the ones from that night, were back on the counter. Same spot, same condensation, fresh. Impossible. I took a picture. When I checked my phone later, the image was corrupted, just static. That's when I started digging. I found the county records, or tried to. The original floor plans for the bar, missing. The zoning maps, redacted. I found one cryptic reference in a local newspaper archive from 1947. Rail supply outpost at 5th and Hayward shut down following unexplained collapse. 2 fatalities, no remains recovered. That's the corner where the bar sits now. Collapsed, no remains. Sound familiar? I tracked down an old man named Ellis who used to work the rails in the 60s. He remembered the switchyard before it was a bar. Said the land was strange, that sometimes cargo went missing. Entire crates. Once an engine car vanished overnight. We used to joke it fell through the earth, he told me. But he didn't laugh when he said it. And then he added, the ground never stopped humming, even when the trains did. I asked what he meant. He said some places don't forget what they were built for. I started going to the switchyard during the day, just to sit, to listen. The bartender let me. I think he was too scared to stay there alone. He told me things in hushed tones. That glasses sometimes cracked in the sink by themselves. That once, when he opened the supply closet, all the bottled water had turned murky. Brown, smelling like rust, and that someone kept leaving the back office light on. Even though he unplugged the lamp, I brought a sound recorder, one of those high-frequency digital models. Left it overnight with his permission. The next morning there was 53 minutes of silence, and then at exactly 1:19 a.m., a low vibration. Faint, almost imperceptible. Then 3 sounds. Thud, 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 like someone knocking from below. I sent the file to a friend of mine, a guy who works in audio forensics. He boosted the gain, cleaned the background. He said, it's not just knocking, there's a voice underneath it. When he isolated the frequency, we heard it. A whisper, just one word, open. I went cold, because that's what Mike used to say every night when he unlocked the bar. Right before he'd click the door open, lean out and say, "Open for trouble, boys." He said it like a joke. But hearing it now, slowed, distorted, buried in that static, it didn't sound funny at all. It sounded like a warning, or a plea. The bartender quit 2 days later, said he saw something in the hallway mirror, a man with no face, just static where features should be. His hands were pressed against the glass, as if he was trapped behind it. That same night, someone broke in, but nothing was stolen. The only thing disturbed was the back office door. It was open. No signs of forced entry, no prints, just open. Inside, the room had changed. The filing cabinet was moved. The floor tiles had shifted, like something underneath had pressed upward. And the carpet smelled like burned sugar. I pulled it back. Underneath, wood paneling, old, splintered, and in the center, some metal latch, rust-covered, unmarked. I didn't open it, not that night, but I marked the spot. I barely slept. My dreams were strange, repeating corridors, a train with no windows. Mike sitting across from me, his mouth moving but no sound coming out, only static. The next day, I came back with tools. I pried the latch. It led to a narrow shaft, maybe 4 feet wide. Ladder rungs drilled into the concrete. I climbed down. 7 steps, then 8, then 9. Then I lost count. There were no lights, only the dim glow from my phone screen. The walls were damp, pulsing almost, like they were breathing. At the bottom, a room, circular, lined with stone, symbols etched into every inch of the surface. Old symbols, some familiar, some impossible. In the center, a chair, rusted, shackled, and around it, dozens of bottles, glass, filled with liquid. And inside each one, a voice? You could hear them, faintly, like radio static, but layered with emotion, crying, begging, repeating phrases. One bottle rolled toward me. It was warm. I picked it up. Inside, I heard Mike, clear as day. "Don't follow, don't follow, don't." Then silence, then a whisper. "You opened it." The bottle cracked in my hand. I ran. I never went back, but I still hear them. Late at night, in my walls, in the plumbing, always just under the sound, like the past doesn't want to stay buried, like something below that bar is still waiting to be opened. I stopped telling people what I'd seen, not because I doubted it, but because every time I spoke the truth, something around me broke. Light bulbs burst, my phone glitched, my cat wouldn't come into the same room as me for days. It was like reality itself was punishing me for remembering. But I couldn't forget. I couldn't forget Mike's voice trapped in glass, or the cold breathing walls, or that feeling when I climbed back up that shaft. I changed after that, not all at once, but gradually, like erosion. The world started to feel thinner, flimsier, like the veil that kept normal life intact was wearing down, just for me. I'd be driving and suddenly feel like I was on tracks, not metaphorically, literally, as if my choices were being directed from somewhere else, as if I was already following a route written long ago. My friends noticed. They said I was distant, distracted, that I looked at walls like they were whispering to me. I told them I was fine, but at night I'd sit in silence, listening to the pipes, to the subtle hum behind the drywall, and sometimes I'd hear the bottles, not with my ears, with something deeper, like my soul was tuned to a frequency most people forgot how to hear. I started dreaming of trains, always empty, always arriving but never departing. I'd walk through car after car, looking for something, and in the last car, and always the last, I'd find the bar, the switchyard, dusty, dead, and Mike, polishing a glass that never got clean. He'd look at me and say, "You never closed the latch." I don't know what he meant. Maybe I never really sealed that thing beneath the floor. Maybe once you open a door like that, you stay open too. I quit my job, moved across the state, changed my number, left everything behind. But the switchyard still finds me. Not the building, the feeling. Old bars with flickering lights, locked doors with warm handles, mirrors that seem too deep. Whenever I feel it, I leave. I don't ask questions, because I already know the answer. Some doors were never meant to be opened. Some voices were never meant to be heard. And some people, like Mike, become part of the place they vanish in. People still ask what happened to him. Ran off him, they say. Got tired of the grind. But I know the truth. Mike didn't leave. He was collected, preserved, stored, somewhere beneath that floor. Trapped not by force, but by ritual, a pattern, A cycle. Something older than the bar, older than the town, maybe older than the train tracks themselves. I once tried to draw the symbols I saw down there, just from memory. The pen in my hand snapped. The paper caught fire. That was the last time I tried. Now I just carry the story, like a bottle in my chest. Maybe that's what the switchyard really is. Not a place, a vault, a forgotten room where memories go when the world refuses to carry them. And now I'm one of them, a walking whisper, a survivor of a story no one wants to believe. I went back once. I told myself it was just to see, just to be sure. The bar had been torn down, just a patch of dry gravel now. No building, no door, no evidence it had ever existed. But the railroad was still there, rusty, breathing, and in the middle of that empty lot, where the bar had stood, I found something that shouldn't have been there. A coaster, old, faded, but with a familiar logo, the Switchyard Bar, Stir 1949. It hadn't rained in weeks, and yet it was damp, like someone had just set it down. That's when I heard it. The faintest sound, glass clinking, somewhere below my feet. I didn't dig, I didn't call anyone, I just left. And that's the last time I ever went near that town. But the truth, you don't leave a story like this, you carry it. It follows you in shadows that stretch too far, in cold drafts with no source, in radios that flicker to life on their own, always tuned to static, but just beneath it, something else, like a voice trying to come through. If you've ever lost someone and the story didn't make sense, check the ground beneath the places they loved. If you've ever felt like you were being watched by a room with no eyes, ask yourself what stories the walls remember. Because the past doesn't just disappear, it gets stored, filed away. Sometimes in people, sometimes in bars, and sometimes in you. So if this story made something deep inside you stir, if you felt that familiar chill when I described the 3 knocks, don't ignore it. It means you've heard the echo before. It means your story might not be so different. Like this video, subscribe, and listen closely, because next time we'll talk about the postal worker who vanished in Vermont after delivering a letter to a house that hasn't had residents since 2011. But that's a story for tomorrow. Tonight, just remember, some disappearances don't happen. They're arranged. And some bars don't serve drinks. They serve memories. And if you ever find yourself in a bar that feels too quiet, don't finish your drink. Don't look in the mirror. Just leave before someone adds your name to the ledger.